It seems now more than ever, it's important for employees to feel at home, respected, and appreciated at their place of work. Welcome to the AllVoices Career Growth and Development Podcast. My name is Thomas Ressler, he, him, and his, and I'm a partnerships manager here at AllVoices. Today, I'm very excited to welcome our next guest onto the interview series, Suzi Kalsow, who is the VP of Learning and Development at Bank Midwest. Suzi, thank you so much for being here with me today and joining me on the podcast. If you want to share a little bit about yourself for our listeners, including your pronouns and when you were younger, how exactly did you answer the question of what do you want to be when you grow up?
Well, thank you. Pronouns, I am she or her or whatever. That's my preference. I don't get asked that a lot, so that's kind of fun. I actually started out thinking as a kid that I wanted to be on television. I wanted to be in front of the camera. I wanted to I thought news at the worst, but I love TV and acting and that kind of thing. Awesome. So those were my dreams that I wouldn't tell anybody because they would tell me I was crazy. But that's what I would have said. I want to be a star.
There you go.
I can't sing or dance or do any of that. So I don't know where that was coming from, just a neurotic need for attention or something. I don't know. But
well, I'm glad that we can be on the camera together today then.
Yeah. So
awesome.
Anyway.
And Suzi, what defines you?
I really think it's about impact. I think my early days, I guess I was always trying to prove something, but I found that making a difference in some way, shape or form, things are better because you've been there. Just having some kind of impact led me to education. So I started out as a 7th and 8th grade teacher and coach because in a small town in Iowa, that's where my influences were. Mm-hmm. So my mom was a single mom of 7 kids. And so the teachers and coaches that I had and the impact of athletics and learning as my kind of ticket out of a life that my mom was a cook. So we did not live an easy lifestyle growing up. And so I saw these teachers and coaches make a difference for me. And so I kind of wanted to do the same. So I would say trying to have impact, no matter how long I work or no matter what job I do, just trying to make a difference, I think has been a driving force for me.
Awesome. Yeah, I believe that's, a beautiful perspective to look at life with. I can definitely appreciate that and, try to do something similar with my life and keep it interesting, try to stand out while also making an impact on someone as well. I know my teachers throughout the years have definitely made a large impact on my life and my career as a whole. So I can definitely agree with that. Mm-hmm. And Suzi, how do you think your personal journey up to this point has led you to Bank Midwest?
Well, when you start out in teaching and education, I think you just learn a lot about who you are, where your gifts are, how you want to spend your time. And I think the more self-aware I became, I realized that the nature of education is very rigid and very structured, and I like change and I like variety. Mm-hmm. And I realized my challenges in K-12 education were that lack of flexibility. So that led me to say, I love being around the students. I really enjoyed the coworkers I had and the people I taught with. But at the end of the day, that bell ringing and just that schedule was not a match for me. So I went on and became a curriculum director, and then I also was an education consultant. And during that time, just had a drive to go back to school. So I just kept going back and getting more degrees, and finally, till I couldn't go anymore, I was at a consulting agency and went back to be a graduate leadership professor at my old alma mater at Buena Vista University. So I got to start my college educational career teaching people leadership at the graduate level. So that was a big leap But those pathways where I think the main lesson from all of that is I had this plan going like this, and my plan pretty much went all over the place because my plan was to go back and be a principal, have more flexibility, have more influence, and didn't get a principal's job. So I just thinking, well, maybe I'll get the superintendency and then I'll get a principal's job. Didn't get that. They want superintendents who have principal's experience. So then getting into my doctorate program, that was like way overqualified. So that whole path to the principalship superintendency shifted to higher ed. Why not go to the college level and see what you can do there? And so that was that path for a long time. And then I had a chance to work in the School of Education. So I was a dean of ed for a while. And then I went on to become associate vice president, which was a cool job because we oversaw 2+2 college programs. And then I got to be an academic vice president at a small college in South Dakota. So that was just exciting and challenging, working with faculty and programs at a time when colleges were becoming very competitive with online options. Mm-hmm. And just one weekend, I'm at a golf course and the current CEO and president of Bank Midwest said, I have a perfect job for you. It's learning and development, but it's at the bank and you probably don't want to leave higher ed. And I said, well, let's talk about that because I was living away from home at the time and my sons and grandkids and friends and everything I was just coming home on weekends. And I said, let's talk about this. I'm getting a little homesick. So that was in 2014, landed at Bank Midwest in learning and development. And it's just been quite an interesting shift from education, then higher ed into banking. But I think that's a lesson there. Is all these plans you can have them, but the chances of it coming out just the way you planned it, just be open to some possibilities that at the first sight sound kind of crazy, but it's really been fun to be a part of this.
I would imagine, yeah. I guess you never know where life's going to take you. And I feel like everyone definitely has their own unique and different path in life. And everyone plans on just, a straight, narrow path. And it usually doesn't work out like that. Right. And yeah, everyone's different. And I think it's important, especially, for you in your position, that you, respect that everyone has their different path in life and helping your colleagues and coworkers like grow when it comes to their career and everything. And I just think that's beautiful. So yeah, thank you for sharing that with me. Mm-hmm. And how do you measure the success of your career growth and development initiatives and projects?
Well, we try to look at impact, but I have to say, I think just you have to take the feedback that you get. I mean, you can do formal evaluations, but at the end of the day, someone's saying, here's what you learned and here's how I used it. So Bank Midwest hired me because I had come in 2 years previous to being hired, and I had done something called Fierce Conversations training. And that's just about having direct and honest conversations versus talking about people. It's the not avoiding conflict, but going toward it. Mm-hmm. And I had taught that. And so then 2 years later, I was asked to come in, I think mainly because of that, and asked to teach it to everybody in the company, not just the leaders. And then we added people skills, which is a behavior style program like DISC or Myers-Briggs, all those where you have the quadrants. And so those have been the two big areas. And, you measure that by just having people say, here's what we learned, here's how I used it. And here's a difference it made. So I'm looking at personal impact too, not just how did this help you at work or do your job, but how did this help you resolve an issue with a brother or a friend or a parent? And how is that added to the quality of your life? So that's a tough one because I think we've looked at all kinds of structures. There are programs out there to start with measuring the experience and all of that. But at the end of the day, did somebody use it? Did it make any difference? And you can collect that kind of feedback. You can ask for feedback, but at the end of the day, did anybody use it? And that's where I think training and learning and development really struggles with. We can have great training experiences. It was fun. The food was tasty. They got to chat with each other. The time went fast. Whatever you hear is, oh, that was really a fun day. And then, so what though? You know?
Yeah, at the end of the day. I see. Yeah. So what was it like teaching that program to everyone, and how many people were involved in, say, your training sessions?
Well, at our bank here in Bank Midwest, we have 200. We have about 95% have been through Fierce training, and now I would say about 60 to 70% through the People Skills program.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say percentage wise, if you just report that, you see it, you still see evidence where people are using it, and you see evidence where they, well, you just had a key opportunity there to really use what you learned and you didn't. So as a trainer, you have to come back and say, what happened there and what kind of impact is this having? People who I talk with about it say, I didn't use it, but I knew I should have. So there's a consciousness that's raised, and they know there's a better way, but they didn't.
Yeah, I can understand like how, maybe even after learning that training, maybe they're a little bit scared to use it.
Right.
Is that what it is?
Well, I do a follow-up to that. It's called the cost of avoidance, and I'll be sharing that at the Wisconsin Bankers next month. But it's just so, I heard a great phrase where it says, we have to analyze, is it a skill set or is it a mindset? If someone doesn't have the skill set, then training is the answer. We have to train somebody how to confront. Well, when 95% of your people have been trained, they have 7 steps, less than 60 seconds, and they don't use it, then it becomes a mindset. So what became clear to me is you can have the tools, but if you don't believe that confronting someone directly and honestly is a gift, if you think you're hurting them, even though you have the skill set, the steps, the way to do it, you won't do it. Yeah. So we have to go back and challenge what people believe. Do you believe it's a gift to go directly to someone? Or do you think you're hurting that person? If you think you're hurting the person, you probably won't do it. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's one of the challenges of, God, we taught them all this. Why aren't they using it? Well, we taught them to coach, but they don't believe people have the answers within them. And so they don't ask the questions. They just continue to give advice. So it's challenging all of that. And not only just giving them the skills, but challenging the mindset that makes people want to avoid those kinds of conversations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like that's such a powerful way to look at life. And I love that quote about we have to analyze, is it a skill set or a mindset? Mm-hmm. I really like that. And I would like to, kind of use that in my life as well. Mm-hmm. And so kind of on the same idea then, how is Bank Midwest honoring, celebrating, or recognizing top employees? And how does that positively impact their or others' upward mobility at Bank Midwest?
Well, I think one of the things we learned is that we don't do that as well as we should. We have to celebrate more. We have to recognize more. And so I've been talking with our CEO and president, and she does a town hall meeting every other month and shares basic information about what's happening in banking. And she does something called high fives at the end, where it's just recognition. So what she wants is she wants to know who's gone through the training, some examples that people are willing to share where I did the training and I used it. So I would say it's an area where we can really improve. We need to celebrate more. We tend to say, yay, okay, now what's next? We don't stay with it a lot. So I think from her perspective, she's saying, give me more information, give me more people to recognize. And if we want people to do something, let's get better at rewarding and noticing those in a public setting for what they've done. So it's actually something we're currently working on.
Yeah, awesome. So are there any particular initiatives that you're looking at implementing this year in terms of, honoring your employees?
Well, it'll just be through that program. We do the certificates. I think we want to publicize more, maybe use our homepage more to put pictures and our one source, we call it, but our homepage on the web. Mm-hmm. and just finding ways to recognize people there with pictures or accomplishments or high fives or whatever. So anything we can do to honor them, and little gift cards, just all kinds of things, a Subway card, I don't know, things that give people a sense that, hey, you appreciated me and I have something concrete to show for it. So
awesome. Yeah, I appreciate the fact that you're looking into these initiatives and trying to implement some of them this year as well. I feel like that, really helps it build trust with your employees as well. And speaking of building trust, how do you build career maps so that employees have the confidence that their hard work will lead to promotions instead of, say, hiring from outside of the organization to the positions that, your existing employees have or want?
well, one of the things we've done is we've started internal leadership program, and people can get trained in that program. We're on our third group. Mm-hmm. And I think what we're doing is building capacity internally. So we have a first year group. It can be anywhere from 8 to 12 people who are either new leaders or aspiring. Mm-hmm. And we train them using a format. The first one is called effective personal productivity, and it's from an LMI system, but it really talks about goal setting and delegation and time management and prioritization. And so that program, I think, has been a solid program. And after they've been through that, we're reconvening, and we're actually getting into a program around a leadership triangle that I created that has to do with developing business acumen, which is understanding the big picture of banking. Mm-hmm. Then we talk about emotional intelligence as a prong of that. So it's the self-awareness and the self-regulation focus. And then we do our leadership training. So then we go back and review fierce concepts. We do the people skills concepts, and we just talk about leadership in general and what it takes to be a leader at Bank Midwest. And so that internal capacity building, I think, is one good program. I think when you talk about career pathing, though, I think we should look at it with everybody from beginning employees to people who are aspiring to be the CEO and president someday. We really have to look at all employees having a potential to sit and say, where is it? What's my plan? How do I get where I want to go? And what steps do I take? And we find sometimes on exit interviews that people didn't see options ahead of them. They didn't see opportunity. Mm-hmm. Their boss is young. That's what they think. They're going to stay in that business line. And we want to open it up and say, check across the company. We have lots of options. And what might be the best use of you in the future, that you'd be engaged and excited.
Yeah, I think that creating, career maps and giving them goals to reach that they know are possible to reach really kind of helps someone see the light at the end of the tunnel there. And, I love that that not everyone is, the same. And sometimes they need to make a lateral switch. And what does making a lateral switch at Bank Midwest look like for an employee? Like, is that something that you can easily do, or?
An example was we had a young intern and she did a great job in retail banking. So they hired her as a teller retail associate. But we also let people do job shadowing if they want to check something out. Mm-hmm. And she visited data analytics and she just said fireworks went off. This is what I want to do. This is my passion. And so they talked with her about the job, interviewed her for an opening. So she made the transition from being a retail associate into data analytics and just was tearing it up there. So that's the kind of thing. If you give people chances to job shadow, just ask them, what are you interested in? Like, you want to sit in on a loan committee, mm-hmm. or you'd like to go on a sales call with a lender.
Yeah.
Or look at IT. What does our IT group do during the day? Or what does a wealth manager do? And what skills do I need? Or mortgage. I mean, there's just so many different avenues in banking.
Absolutely.
Where job shadowing should be an option, spending some time saying what might the best use of me be. So we had an example. One of our employees took people skills and found out that she was in a very analytical job, but it was not her natural style.
Okay.
And it explained some of her frustration and challenges in her job. And so we talked with her and just said, this is a great opportunity to use the people skills behavior styles to say, let's put you where you can be at your best all the time, doing what comes natural.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe that's such a powerful tool to allow people to shadow others and essentially try to uplift them at the company and give them that mobility, whether it be, upwards, sideways, left or right. That's an incredible tool. And I love that example that you gave me as well. So thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
And how does employee feedback promote growth at Bank Midwest? And how does building trust amongst employees relate to growth at Bank Midwest?
Well, we do everything from real formal employee feedback, which most companies do, engagement survey, and we just talked about it this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And that feedback on there, I guess the way they share it is so transparent that builds trust. Because if I wrote a comment that wasn't very positive as an employee and I see it represented in the feedback, I know you're not filtering it. I know what I said gets counted. And sometimes that's kind of hard. It's you just want to project, a happy, wonderful, perfect company. And when you get an engagement survey and there are parts that are really good, and then there are some areas where you need to improve, you build trust when you share that honestly. But not just sharing it and collecting it, but saying, okay, based on what we learned, here's what we're going to do about it. And we've got some plans on some changes we want to make. And so I think that would be one way to start. Also, I think you build trust with employee feedback when you encourage it and then sit down and let people know that they've been heard. Just because you give me feedback on something doesn't mean it needs to change, because sometimes you don't have all the information. And I can explain to you, here's what we're doing, here's why, and the pieces you're missing are this.
Mm-hmm.
So I think not just giving feedback and doing it respectfully and professionally, but also maybe seeking feedback. And we're finding that our younger employees really want a lot more feedback.
Yeah.
My generation is no news is good news. Leave me alone. If I don't hear from you, I must be fine. So,
Yeah.
But the minute you want to talk to me about something, I'm thinking, now what?
Something's wrong.
So no news was good news. The young folks are saying, how am I doing? What should I do? And they're asking our interns, everybody, they're constantly wanting to know how they're doing, what they can do better. So I think as leaders, that's all going to have to change. If you have an aversion to regular feedback,
Mm-hmm.
The younger generation of workers is going to push us to give more. And as they should know where they stand. And they're going to expect more interaction and more feedback. I find the best is very specific. It gives people some information about here's what you did, here's the impact it had, and here's what you may need to do about that. But in a coaching mode, you could say, here's what you did, here's the impact it had. What do you think you should have done differently? And so to have those conversations when they're small, after little incidences, so people have an opportunity to change, do something different to improve. So I think those are all really important pieces of feedback. And some of us have an aversion to getting it. Some people have an aversion to giving it when it's not positive. And I think the best thing we can do is learn to be comfortable. Here's the issue, here's the example. We need to move ahead. What do you think? Here's what happened. And to be very aware of the type of person you're dealing with. So that's why understanding different styles. Some say, just tell me like it is. Others say, let's go through this a little differently. So I think if leaders will understand the people who report to them and say, I know you, I know how this would work better with you, and you try to meet in the middle. So
Yeah.
I might be a controller who's more direct. You may be a stabilizer who would like a little more pillows around things.
Mhm.
Maybe we can meet in the middle. The stabilizer can suck it up a little bit and toughen up. The controller can slow down and take some time and go through it a little differently. So it's really adjusting to people and asking them, how do you like to be supervised?
Mhm.
When I have feedback for you, what's the best way that you would like to hear that? Those kinds of things. It's about communication. It's about assuming that your feedback is intended to make me better. You have
Yeah.
good intentions.
Yeah, I definitely think it's necessary for people, if they do give that feedback to, see change coming from the company's end, it's like, especially, I'm not sure if you guys use only, like non-anonymous feedback or anonymous feedback, but I think it's definitely necessary for employees to actually see change if they do give that feedback, and then they want to give more feedback at the end of the day as well.
I'm
And
not
then,
a big fan of the 360 anonymous feedback. I
not a
think people can lob grenades at others. I think the better move for me in
Mhm.
my culture that I would love to create is where we have honest, direct conversations,
Yeah,
not 360 feedback once a year, but every day of the year, we have direct conversations about how we're doing, what's going on, and how to improve.
yeah,
And I feel like if I can't put my name to something and own it, then we don't have a culture of honesty and directness and transparency. So that tells me there's a lack of trust and respect in the organization when you have to do anonymous feedback.
of
And I
course.
would encourage all leaders to have direct conversations when the problems are at the lowest level and deal with things directly and honestly, because the cost of all that avoidance is huge for a company. So why don't we be more transparent? And some people saying, yeah, but what if it's my boss, or what if it's, I know there's a lot of pushback on that. But to me, anonymous feedback says your culture is not healthy. The people don't trust each other to be respectful. There's not enough respect built in there. So you've got some other issues going on besides whether it's anonymous or not.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I definitely see exactly what you're saying there, Susie. I think it's especially with the program that you're running. I believe you said it was called the Fierce program, correct?
Fierce
Yeah.
conversations. Yeah, we do it within the company for all employees. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I like that idea as well, and think that that's also a very powerful tool, and to have an open door policy as well. Well, Susie, as we're running up on time, thank you so much for your insight, and I really appreciate your mindset, and know others do as well that listen to the podcast. So thank you so much for being on the AllVoices Career Growth and Development podcast this afternoon with me. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you.
And
My
if
pleasure.
if our viewers want to reach out and say follow exactly what you're doing, is the best place to find you on LinkedIn?
LinkedIn is fine. I have, email is a good way to contact me, but I am on LinkedIn and through Bank Midwest, and I have a side gig of Suzi Kalsow Leadership Development that I do 2/3 time at the bank and 1/3 doing speaking and trainings. So those are two possibilities: is Suzi Kalsow Leadership Development or Bank Midwest.
Everyone, yeah. So everyone go follow her on LinkedIn or her program as well. And once again, I appreciate you for taking the time to speak with me. And of course, as a reminder for folks that are listening, we really believe in employee and employers being seen, heard, and understood, and know that it's a requirement for the company to succeed. Have a great rest of your afternoon, everyone. Thank you.